What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Cornelia, back with another episode of Black News, a podcast where we break down current events, hot topics, and local stories involving Black people. Now let's get into it. Child, what a week. Am I right? What a week, y'all. What a week, y'all. Am I right? Am I right? What a what a week. What a week. And let me apologize for last week's episode. Child, my audio was jacked up. Ain't nobody the audio was jacked up. And I was in too deep on my apps to even be able to re-record. So it was what it was. I'm going to try my best for the audio to be a little better this week. But child, I was listening to that episode back when I was doing the editing. I was like, this is the bull. But it fit the week. Jacked up audio, jacked up country. Okay, let's get into it. What a week. Last week when I recorded the episode, it was Monday night. Okay, it was Monday. Election was on Tuesday. You can see the optimism and hear the optimism in my voice if you listen back throughout the jacked audio to see where I was feeling. I was confident. We did everything that we was going to do that we could do. I was confident and I was sure that we was going to have a different outcome. And let me tell y'all, come Tuesday night, the American people, raggedy asses, voted them red hats back in the office. I was not expecting. And let me say this. I was not shocked. I don't remember on Black News when I talked about my reaction when Kamala Harris was first, when Joe Biden dropped out and he kind of passed the torch to Kamala Harris. My initial reaction was fear, exhaustion, and just overwhelm. The first feeling I had, and I was talking to one of my homegirls about this. At the time, I was so exhausted before we even got into the campaign because y'all know how Black women are treated. We know America's reaction to Black women, whether America likes to admit it or not. So my first reaction was that. Then I became extremely hopeful. I'm all on board, locked in, voting, donating, doing all that I can. And I had hope. I was confident and I allowed myself to be hopeful. But on Tuesday night, when I was watching the results play out, and I feel like because I had a lot of homegirls and people, just seeing people on social media also talking about this. When we started to see the results come in, we all were collectively like, oh, that's right. We were hopeful, but we forgot. Hope allowed us to forget that regardless of what people try to mask and say, regardless of what they think they talking points are, regardless of what the campaign is, at the end of the day, the blood is at the root. And at the root, people ain't fooling with no Black woman in office, no matter how qualified she is, and no matter how outrageously violent and dangerous the other candidate is. Now, there could be many different reasons, and I'm going to get into that in this podcast episode. Many different reasons why she did not win the election. But at the end of the day, personally, I think it really came down to people's overt and covert racism. So, and again, I'm saying that because with the caveat in mind that there are other reasons to contribute into that. But let's call a spade a spade. So, right after election, I was, like many people, very sad. I went to bed before Pennsylvania was called, child, and them red hat votes was rolling in. And at one point I was like, you know what, forget it. It is what it is. But I still had hope because in previous elections, they lasted days after. They would still count votes for days and days and days. The last time we saw election in early was, I would say, Obama's both his election. He packed them boys up by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? Somebody posted on social media, Barack Obama had one so early, you still had time to go to the club afterwards and celebrate. You can he he packed them N words up at 11 something, went to bed, had a good night's sleep. That was the last time elections ended that early. So I was shocked. But I went to bed, was jolted, and I won't say jolted out of my sleep, but y'all know them TikTok conspiracy theorists, they was on the money with this one. How people was woken up at around 4 a.m. I swear, y'all, I swear at 4:14 a.m. And I know it's 4:14 a.m. because when this was happening, I rolled over and looked at my clock next to my bed. I woke myself up because I was crying in my sleep at 4:14 a.m. I am not lying with this, y'all. I was crying in my sleep and I was thinking of Kamala Harris. Rolled over, shocked myself like, oh shit, am I crying, face wet? Looked at the clock, 4:14. Apparently, a bunch of other people were jolted out of their sleep between 3 and 4 a.m. But we gonna keep going because hey, that's too deep into the conspiracy. Y'all, the TikTok astrologers was on one. But I woke up the next day and I woke up to one some of my line sisters in a group chat because they're on the East Coast talking about what happened already and our sadness and disappointment. And I immediately went from sadness to extreme anger. I went to anger. Anger because one, I wasn't expecting this. We weren't expecting this. Two, I was looking forward to celebrating with my girlfriends and flying out to the East Coast and going to Kamala's inauguration. And as we get older and as I'm losing friends and people are dying at young ages, I am more and more excited to spend time with my core friend groups. So I was like, dang, I ain't even gonna get to come out and like share this moment with them. Then I was pissed because there were no policies, y'all. There was no policies. Mass deportations and tariffs ain't a policy, them threads. So I became angry about what people voted for and the fact that too many people in this country are uneducated. And it seems like we are all as a collective held hostage by those people's choices, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. So my sadness shifted. But then by the end of the day, Wednesday, I was, you know what? It is what it is. You want it, you got it. You bought it, you got it. You own it now. And like many other Black women come to find out because all over social media and then having conversations with people, y'all Black women, y'all and Black women listening to this podcast, you probably can relate. We removed ourselves from the process now, baby. You got it. You got it. So I then started to like laugh a little bit because guess what? When all of these things start to happen, we tried to help. We told y'all. We tried to show y'all what it was as Black people in this country, Black women who consistently have and carry things on our shoulders. We tried to help y'all fools. And 92% of Black women showed up. And 80+% of Black men showed up. Black men, I owe y'all apology. And I don't think I did anything wrong, but I told y'all about the comment section on my YouTube podcast video about the Black men plans with Black men. Y'all, they was in there cutting up. Black men, y'all did y'all thing. At a later time, we're going to talk about that 8% of Black women, and we're going to talk about that 20% of Black men who voted for Trump. But for right now, Black men and Black women, we did what we needed to do. We did what we needed to do. But then again, I have now in a state of like many of us, don't ask me for nothing. Don't call me for no protest. I'm not going. If something going on, somebody immediately started posting on social media a link to the updated women's march that happens around Inauguration Day. Baby, don't send it to no Black people. We're not going. We're done. We're done. Do not send it to us. We have literally checked out. And I was over the weekend jotting down my thoughts because I didn't want to forget points for this podcast episode. But I wrote this down and I want to read it as I wrote it in my iPhone notes, just to throw this in here because a lot of people don't really understand, right? And I'm a preface this with this was a part of the anger and that feeling that I had immediately after. So this is what I wrote. Because these terrible things have not happened in this country to them, meaning the people, the red hats, and their ancestors directly, they honestly don't believe what could happen or what people are capable of because they haven't actually experienced it. And when we tell them about it, they don't pay attention. So when they vote to support mass deportation and vote to remove reproductive rights for women, they will follow that up and say, oh, he would never do that. He's not serious. They are not serious. But they are the ones saying that because they don't have historical context that Black people do to say that it actually will because we've lived it. So they need to, at this moment in time, experience this themselves. It is their turn. Not to say that everybody else will be immune to all of the destruction that is going to come because they're already talking about, he already made announcements about he's going to shut down the Department of Education, mass deportations, do all of these things. But literally, people have to experience themselves. Black Americans and Native Americans are the only group of people in this country that have felt the full wrath of the American government and American citizens and American policies. We are the only two demographics that have felt the full boot on the neck of us, whether that is genocide, enslavement, torture, murder, disenfranchisement, left with no land after ours was stolen, the civil rights lynching, policy plans that were built around disenfranchise, you name it, war on drugs, the mass incarceration, you name it. It has only happened in mass consistently to these two groups of people. So at this point, because people don't believe that it will happen to them because they weren't paying attention when it happened to us. They literally were not paying attention. That's why Handmaid's Tale. People are like, this gonna be the new Handmaid's Tale. Bitch, Handmaid's Tale already happened to us. That's why they have to experience it themselves. So now that things have died down and people done got their jokes off on social media, Black women have removed themselves and Black men from any form of protest. We are in a state of relaxation and community building amongst ourselves. If you all listening to Black News have ideas about what that could look like, I'm open to it. How we can support each other in these upcoming trying times, especially as it relates to specific things that will happen, right? Education. We need to start thinking about how we can shore up and make sure that our children remain educated and have the resources they need, because apparently with the Department of Education closing, children with special needs will be affected drastically. Pell Grants, anything related to student loan payments, any of that gonna be out of here, up out of here. So how do we help each other in that area? How do we help each other in women's health care? How do we help each other with economics? I know one thing that I am in the process of doing, and I have declared, y'all know I'm going to buy me some Black history books. And y'all know I'm big on the library and listening to things free via, not Audible, but Libby and the Hoopla apps, the free library, public library apps. Now, whenever I make a purchase, if it's through Amazon, if it's at a store, wherever it is, I'm going to try to buy and purchase a Black history or Black specific book. Because maybe it's just me. I feel like Black history books and books about Black people about to be the new underground currency or the new status symbol, because they about to get these books up out of here. And I know some people may think this is over exaggerating. All of these things have happened somewhere in this world before. So I implore y'all to do that as well. If there's a book, get it. I don't care if you already read it. It's books that I got in my cart right now. I already read. I'm gonna get them because I want to own the actual book. So we need to be worrying about that. But Now what's also happening is the blame game. As as things start to wind down and as people start to take account and review this past 100 something days, the last couple months leading up to the election, people are blaming the Democrats, they blaming Joe Biden, they blaming Kamala Harris, they saying that Democrats are out of touch with the working class. Kamala Harris ran a bad campaign. Joe Biden is wrong for not stepping down sooner and having an open primary. You name it, somebody on the chopping block. Who they're not blaming are uneducated people and people of who Trump, the campaign for spreading propaganda. We can blame anybody and we can point to many directions, but one thing you ain't gonna do on my watch, we not gonna blame Vice President Kamala Harris. I know that. When you really zoom back and think about what took place over these past few months, of course it was a black woman being put in a position to run a campaign and to exceed all expectations that have never been set before. This woman raised over $1 billion in about 3 or 4 months. Had a hit podcast. She wasn't on the podcast. Yes, she was. She was on podcast. She did she had performances. She was in battleground states. She was knocking on doors. Sis was in 4 states each day for the last month. You name it, the type of forum she was on it. So I don't know what else she could have done except run a platform of pure hatred because clearly that's what was winning. Joe Biden, y'all know Joe Biden. Listen, whether Joe Biden stepped down earlier or not, based on the polling data that people have been pulling and pulling up, what no Democrats around the country polling enough or well enough to be projected to beat the red hat. So that wasn't going to work. So at this point, there was nothing that people could have been doing. There was no stone unturned. And I'm really not buying that part about that thing about saying Democrats didn't do a good job of speaking to the working class. I would like to reframe that and say people who are working class really don't care about hearing about, well, I won't say they don't care about hearing about like economics and things. I would say people within the working class on the other side like to cosplay like that's the most important thing to them. But the evidence and the proof is in the pudding because the side people ended up voting for and the side that won did not have no economic policies. Vice President Kamala Harris had plans for black men. She had a plan for Puerto Rico. She had a plan for first time a homeowner. She had a plan for people with kids. She had a plan with people taking care of their elderly parents. She had a plan for people who want to get in the marijuana business. She had a plan for people who was convicted of marijuana. She had a plan for everything. She had a plan for everything. She had a plan for the environment. She literally, she had the economic plans. So I'm not really buying that. And this is how I know that it wasn't the economy that lost Kamala Harris the election. Because there were down ballot candidates in states that Kamala Harris lost that actually won, who ran on the back of her same platform, who ran on the back of her advertisements in media spin, who ran on the back of her rallies in each state. Child, they were the openers for her. Same exact policy, didn't distance himself from Joe Biden, didn't distance himself from Kamala Harris, didn't distance himself from being a Democrat, didn't distance himself from any of that. Had the same exact economic platforms, but made it more specific to the states that they were running in. Look at the majority of the swing states and the candidates that won down ballot, the Democratic candidates that won down ballot versus her. So if it's the same policies and if it's the same platform, what do you mean the messaging didn't do well? The economic message didn't do well for voters. Apparently it did. Some people were then saying, well, it was her likability. She wasn't likable. That's why. Y'all, some of the most duddest of the duddest won down ballot races versus VP Kamala Harris. So you telling me that it was about personality when people who have absolutely none won their down ballot races and she didn't? The only difference that I could see in a lot of those cases, she was black. Now, say what you want, look at it yourself, but I am not willing to accept that particular um, rationale when they ran on the back of her platform. I'm not having it. So the moral of that story, if it walk like a duck and it talk like a duck, it's a motherfucking duck. It's a duck. But now conversation has shifted on social media. Now, I was saying, I don't know where I said this. I may have tweeted this or something. I said, that man with the 10 keys and the TikTok astrologers need their ass whooped because they was on there predicting that she was going to win. But somebody pointed out that man with the 10 keys, the 10 prediction keys to winning, he has keys, but he don't got no keys for black women because we ain't on the same grading scale. He need to come up with 10 keys for black women. Them keys, you need a whole nother set, baby. That's not going to work. But y'all, the TikTok astrologers leading up to the election, all of them was saying that VP Kamala Harris was going to win. They also were saying some fishy was going to happen and it looked like she didn't win, but she actually did win. So everybody was up in arms when that did not happen. Hence that 4 a.m. waking up in the morning because they all was talking about that, pulling the damn tarot cards out, doing all kind of stuff. But now people done dug up the old Mr. Red Hat clips and the old Elon Musk clips in an old Joe Rogan podcast. And by old, I'm just saying in the last couple of months, where people were caught saying, we don't need the votes. We have all the votes. We don't even need you to vote. We have all the votes we need. With Elon Musk saying something to the effect of, yeah, because if we don't win, I'm going to jail. I'm going to prison. And then with Joe Rogan saying, yeah, Elon showed me an app where you could see who wins the elections 4 hours beforehand. People are also starting to go through the numbers in each battleground state because, baby, the Red has swept the battleground states, which ain't happened, they said, since Ronald Reagan. Swept all through that little blue wall. People started comparing the numbers and they're starting to say the way it looks is that some people completely voted blue down ballot and switched their vote to the Red Hat, or they voted Red Hat, didn't vote for nobody else. The way that people were voting in the numbers, it signals something that was very unlikely to happen. And I'm not big on conspiracy theories. I'm just saying what was happening, what they're saying. And I'm not going to get my hopes up because if we know anything about Democrats and leadership, they just take shit and don't got no fight them. They ain't got no dog in them. So if something did happen, they ain't going to do nothing. Let's keep it a buck. But people are also coming out to say that they have been checking their vote status online, and a lot of people have been saying that their status still has like ballot not received, ballot received, without saying ballot counted. So people are like saying there's some voter fraud. Elon Musk stole the election. Scandal, Papa Pope, the B 613, they saying all of this stuff happened. Now, at this point, we know for a fact that the United States government confirmed that the bomb threats that were received on election day across the country in specific polling locations that leaned Democrat were called in by Russia. We know that over the years, there has been Russian influence in our elections in regards to being on social media, spreading propaganda. We know Russians were paying podcast bros to spread misinformation. We know all of this has happened. There has been no public punishment for those crimes. Because I'm realistic. If the government gonna do something and the Russian involved, they ain't gonna tell us. They ain't gonna tell no random people. They're not. But it appears that nothing happens when someone tries to interfere in our elections. So let's say all of these speculations are true, that Elon Musk and Mr. Red Hat, all of them did all of this stuff. I would be hard pressed to assume, like I would nothing, no, there nobody's gonna do anything. They are not the they just stole it. Like if they stole it, they stole it. We just gonna have and we gonna have to wait and see. Like I just can't. I can't. And even if they did that, man, they coming up off that. Like at this point, they not coming up off it. Okay. So, now I ain't gonna say, listen, I'm gonna say this though. If they do decide to do something, they do stand up. If it was true, I'm with you. I ain't gonna be outside protesting no more. But I'm with you. Okay, I'm with you. So now we are in the phase of learning about the policies because Mr. Red Hat is all over social media dropping videos talking about what he's going to do. The biggest ones that are already spreading like wildfire are closing the Department of Education, mass deportations, and people now Googling what are tariffs. So we already know tariffs do not save the American people money. It actually will increase prices for us. So if tariffs are implemented, we ass out. Department of Education, I mentioned what that closing that could do, and it could do more. I'm just doing like a quick high level, but it was one of the things in the 500 pages of Project 2025, which it sounds like they're going to be able to implement in full because it's looking like the House of Representatives will not be flipped to Dem. So far, the Red Hats have the presidency, Senate, the Supreme Court, and if they get the House, it's a wrap. But the one that's really kicking people ass is this conversation about mass deportations. Now, I would assume if somebody runs on a policy or platform that they are going to deport illegals, but they give numbers like 10 million, 15 million, 25 million people, I would assume common sense will tell you, one, that they're serious, and two, they just going to be deporting all kind of people because there are not 25 million illegal criminals in the United States of America. But we are learning that one, they don't have no plan how much they're gonna do it, and just to deport 1 million people, that's gonna cost taxpayers over a few $1 billion, and they want to deport 25 million people. But we also know that it's just not criminals and people who are illegal. They are now talking about people who are also within those families, dreamers, and denaturalization, which means people who have been granted citizenship for whatever reason, they are talking about possibly deporting them as well. Don't y'all see? We've been trying to tell y'all. People have been going around talking about they wouldn't do that. They just deporting the bad people. And they are no, I'm not worried about my family because we're all good people. We're not criminals. Y'all, it is not about the criminals, y'all. You are foreign to them. They do not care if you were born here. If you look, you don't really think they're going to be rolling up people and giving them a questionnaire, having them show your ID, having you do all of this stuff and allowing you to prove that you're not no citizen. No, get in the back of the truck. They're going to drive you south and then they'll figure it out later. Like, why don't people see this? Because like I mentioned earlier in this podcast episode, because people weren't, one, paying attention when it was happening to us, or two, not alive when it was happening to us, and they haven't read any books, and damn sure ain't read nothing about no Black history or Native American history, they have no clue that similar things have already happened. They put the Japanese in internment camps. You think they was asking questions? No, get in the truck. We'll figure it out later. They were literally during enslavement going to free cities and free communities with Black people, kidnapping free Black people and bringing them south and forcing them to be slaves. We have like they came here and tried to enslave the Native Americans. Like So when y'all thought, and I know I'm saying y'all, I know it ain't no Black News listeners. I know it ain't y'all because we wouldn't have done that. But you know what I'm talking about. So when y'all saw them hold up signs that said mass deportations now, and y'all heard them say, for the last 8 years, people from shithole countries. And when y'all heard Kill Tony on that stage at that Hitler rally say Puerto Rico is a island of garbage, y'all really thought that they wasn't talking to you? And you notice how they're not talking about any other immigrants and illegal aliens. There are white illegal aliens in this country. Ain't nobody said a word about kicking them out. They not saying Sweden is a country of garbage. Ain't nobody saying that. So when they were holding those signs up, you didn't think they was talking about y'all? When they be saying, accusing Mexicans of being bad people, do you think they know the difference between somebody from Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and so on? Do you really think they know the difference? So at this point, like mentioned earlier, this is one of the reasons why Black people have said, you know what? You got it. We tried to warn y'all. We tried to do all of this stuff, but y'all didn't listen. And now we all just got to sit back and watch. And throughout this whole experience, I can't help but think, and this is for Black people, because I don't expect this to really weigh on nobody else. But we literally had some of our people dying for our rights. And now look at us. Child, Martin and them rolling in their grave. Medgar Evers and them rolling around. Like, it can't, they rolling. Like, this some bullshit, straight up. And low key, people need to put more respect on Malcolm X's name, because a lot of stuff that Malcolm was talking about, now we about to be forced into some of the ideologies that he was speaking of. You know, that's my boy. I love me some Malcolm X. People cutting their family off. People cutting off. Like, it's getting bad. So, we'll see. In the coming months, Joe Biden and them better throw a Hail Mary. Joe Biden better come through with a Hail Mary for old time's sake. I don't know what's left for him to do, but he got a couple more months. Vice President Kamala Harris. And the part about this is people who felt like they were punishing Vice President Kamala Harris, people who are in the Free Palestine movement and all of these different movements who said they were going to sit out and they hope she lose. Baby, she about to be rich. Doug is rich. She don't, after this, she ain't got to do nothing else. She gonna set up her foundation, the Kamala Harris Foundation or the Shamala Harris Foundation, because she probably gonna name it after her mama. She gonna get out here in the world and start doing the good work, traveling the world, speaking, write books. Sis, Auntie gonna be good, okay? Doug gonna go back to practicing law. He had his own law firm. Doug is a millionaire. They gonna be good. Joe Biden is a millionaire. Michelle Obama and them, she mad. They millionaires. Barack, he good. But we sitting up in here looking stupid. So for the next couple months, we gonna sit back and just and ride the wave. But then after that, it's about to be on. So as a community, what do y'all think we can do? And by we, I mean we. Is there some type of collective that we can start? If anybody has plans, other their friend groups, are they already discussing how they plan to ride out the next 4 years and beyond? Because if you ask me, he gonna do what he said and become a dictatorship, and we probably ain't gonna have no more elections. We probably ain't gonna have no more. I know it sounds dramatic to some people, but hey, they ain't think it was gonna pop off like that in Germany either, and it did. So, what do y'all think? I'd also want to, before we wrap up, as a Black woman, shout out to the 92%. Vice President Kamala Harris, you did your Emma effing thing. I am proud of the race you ran, and I don't know what else you could have done except bleach your skin and turn into a white man. What do y'all think? Hit me up and let me know your thoughts. You can find me at Cornelia on social media. On this episode of Black News, we talked all things election 2024. We talked about the results, the feeling that Black women and Black people in general have, the big takeaways, if it was the economy versus racism, election fraud at play maybe, Trump's policies, and what's next for building community amongst ourselves. Hit me up and let me know your thoughts about all of these topics, some or none, and I'll check back with you guys next time. That's it for this week's episode of Black News, y'all. Thanks again for supporting the podcast by sharing, liking, subscribing, and rating 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. To find more information about me, you can check me out at Cornelia on social media, as well as on my website, which is cornelia.com. And as always, thanks for supporting, and I'll be back next week with new topics and a new episode.